You tendered your resignation on Friday.
I submitted it.
How'd it go?
It went as good as I could have hoped. So I told you I wrote a very candid email I shopped it around a bit. And my hope, it was with direct feedback for the CEO. And I'm really grateful he took it to heart. Like, we sat there and talked about everything point by point, and we're working really well together in terms of the transition, and we hugged it out, and I think
Nice.
we'll stay friends for sure. And the main thing that I will remember from this is ending things. How you end things is incredibly important, because a career is built on reputation, because you can't do anything alone. You have to rely on other people vouching for you. At the end of the day, I buy something from you. What I sell, anything. I am not an inventor of new technologies. The majority of people are selling things in a competitive market, and you choose to buy from one company versus another, or one person versus another, because you trust them more. It's about a level of affinity that you have. That's what marketing and sales is all about. And the same thing goes for working with people or joining a company. And I spent months concretely defining my standard for leaving. And so the way that this past week has gone has been like a huge relief and learning lesson for me that, I pulled it off. Like, I did it. I am leaving, and everybody is wishing me the best.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, everybody's fucking dead ass shocked. They're just like.
Did anybody know you were working on your own thing?
Yeah.
He knew?
He knew, yeah.
That's what's surprising to me, that I wouldn't be. I'd be like, oh, well, clearly he's taking his thing to the next level.
Well, that's why they're like, happy for me.
Right.
But I told him, and this was my first point of feedback, which was, if you had incentivized me the way that I asked to be in our negotiations a year ago, I wouldn't have looked anywhere else. But because you didn't give me what I want, I had to think about alternatives to hit my financial goals.
Yeah.
And what was nothing, I found a seed. A seed became a tree. And now I see how that tree can become a forest, and you just can't take that back. There's basically nothing you could offer me now that would make me think staying here is a better opportunity than going and working on my own thing, which I've already started to build.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a huge learning lesson.
That's a quick lesson to anybody listening. Plant a lot of seeds too.
Plant seeds, believe in yourself. But for any business owners, it's not an excuse to. Everybody is busy. Everybody's just incredibly busy, especially if you're a small business owner, a founder, or trying to be a founder. Everybody's busy. There's always so much to do. But going back to bringing other people on board, it is especially if you want to bring talented people on board, talented people that are as capable as you, if not more capable in certain domains. Those are the people you want to attract. You want to attract A players, right? But A players can go out and do their own thing. Mm-hmm. So how do you actually keep an A player on your team? That is like the number one fear of a lot of most people. That's like a very human fear.
Especially now with the attractiveness of becoming an entrepreneur.
It's so easy. And if you're an A player and I'm an A player and you come and work in my company and you see how everything works, like, you could just go start your own version.
Yeah.
And so you have to treat aligning and incentivizing your team with the utmost importance.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly important. And I see like first time founders just kind of like, it doesn't register how important that is, because they're just trying to move the ball downfield. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're going to move the ball downfield by creating these very strong alliances, and that's your responsibility. And you got to figure out how to make the brain space to get it done.
I'm actually weirdly going through a little bit of this right now, trying to find my sort of team of content creators for Synced.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, taking seriously, like, what makes it worth it for somebody to give me the level of energy that I want?
Right.
And this goes into the emotions that I talked about, like emotions that I forgot about because I haven't been building my own thing for 2 years now. And I was like, oh, I forgot about this strain of anxiety. As an employee, there's its own kind of anxiety where it's like you want to keep your job.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get fired. But the founder anxiety is completely different.
Yeah. I don't want my business to go under.
You don't want the business to go under. You want, like, you
You want to be able to pay people, incentivize people.
You want to be able to pay people. Everything needs to go right.
You want people to like your product or service.
Totally. What was your comment? I totally lost my train of thought.
I interrupted you.
No, it was before you interrupted. I lost my train of thought. Incentivizing content creators.
Oh yeah, I'm just going through that right now because I had like a glass. I call it a glass shattering moment or a fucking light bulb going off of. I can to a certain level do some of the content for Synced, and in my mind, it's like most of it's the behind the scenes of like what was it like building the product, like taking it from idea to actual physical product. But the other day, as I'm talking to another content creator, I'm just like, oh, I don't need to get in the weeds of all the reels and all the photos and all these things. Like, I need to pay people to do this. Like, I've been talking about it with you for the last year of like, I need to be a CEO. Like, what the fuck? I can't be sitting in my office, like, weeding through different content creation ideas when I could just go hire people to do that. And so it was a very like obvious old paradigm, new paradigm of, oh, I think I need to stop identifying, not that I really did, but in a sense, like I'm not a content creator anymore. I need to be the CEO of this product company. And that means not doing all these little menial content creation tasks. So
what does that shift mean to you? Like to be a CEO of a product company?
Strictly focusing on the bigger picture and more sales and marketing. Like I realize what I'm actually really good at because it's starting to come to fruition with the team that's being created for Synced is that I think I'm really picking people that they're energetically go well with the company, with my vision, and the people that I get along with that want to come help, that I love it on a technical sense. I love their style. And they weirdly have already kind of like been through the studio. And I'm like, oh, why don't I just use these guys? Like literally all the different colored mic stands fit perfectly with each person for them to take it to their own office and shoot some content there with it. Green one went to Gabe. Blue one goes to Elliot. Orange one goes to Jasmine. I'm like, that just fits so perfectly. So I think being the CEO, like I have to, I mean, you know what it is. It's like I need to focus on the revenue and figuring out what those goals look like and get very clear on what needs to happen on those things.
And when is it worth it for you to get in the weeds?
I don't want to say it's worth it, but when I'm thinking about how things might play out, let's say all the content creators come back with content that I don't like or something. Okay, then yeah, maybe I go into creating it, but then is that worth my time? Or do I take a little bit of the investment money and just go find new content creators? Like, I guess it would be more like, when is it worth it? Well, how far of debt am I going into? How much money am I spending on it? Is it equating to the value of my time?
What is being in the weeds? Like, what does weeds mean to you?
Weeds really isn't the right term, but for lack of a better term, that's what I'm using. Like, I don't want to be sitting in my office spending hours creating content for the mic stands or in here trying to set up and create content, because now like, as you can see, is the studio today. This studio, I'm creating it more permanent now, like these sets. So I don't want to have to be moving things around to shoot my content, to shoot somebody else's content, to shoot Casey's content. Like, I need everything to be very efficient now. And so me trying to bounce around between podcast producer, content creator, studio manager, personal brand, Casey's editor, like, I got to tighten the ship up to where I'm just the CEO of the new company. Period. Like, I don't have time for anything else now. And if that means I got to do a couple months again of maybe technically not, quote unquote, not being able to afford it right now and have to go 2 or 3 months into the red to kind of get over that hurdle to where now the team is in place and I can just oversee everything, then I think that's where I'm at right now. And that's, you talk about all these weird feelings coming up. That's a position I've never been in. I don't know what those feelings are like, but I get the sense that that's what's happening right now, and that's what I need to do.
So what I hear you say is you think of being CEO as working on the vision, communicating the vision to others, and allocating resources to getting others to execute on the details.
And then managing the team members. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your your primary responsibility is generating revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much right.
Okay, thanks.
Now,
anything,
it's simple.
Please add to that.
It's simple, but the challenge is very dynamic as you go from 0 to different levels.
Right.
Because the amount of resource that you have available to allocate to others executing changes.
Right.
And so, you know, for simplicity's sake, the 0 to 100K stage annual versus 0 to 1 million versus 0 to 10 million is completely different, because you have to, there's almost no avoiding execution unless you've raised capital.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you have raised capital, I have seen CEOs that have raised capital and have hired teams to build their products, sell their products, market their products. But it's the revenue is not moving in the direction that it should. It's hard to get customers to buy. The customers that do buy are churning. Yet the CEO stays in the position of the people I've hired need to fix it, which is mostly right. But in the very specific example I'm thinking of, my feedback for that CEO was, dude, you need to fucking roll up your sleeves and get in there and participate in being like, why the fuck do these customers keep leaving?
Yeah.
Like, you're too early for this shit. And so I think Elon Musk has used this example. There's another billionaire, Ray Dalio, that's used this example, which is essentially like the best founders and CEOs have this helicopter skill set, which is the ability, knowing the moment and being able to traverse from 30,000 foot altitude down to ground level and all of the spaces in between.
Mm-hmm.
And that sense gets sharpened over time.
Right.
But some people just aren't good at different levels, and you better off getting really good at as many levels as you can.
Right.
Because even if you can hire a bunch of people, which over time is what happens, at the end of the day, you're still responsible for the results of the company. And so who's better off? The person that can at least understand all of the different domains within the company and help define the standard and sharpen the standard, because you have to hold people accountable, right? As a CEO, that becomes one of your number one jobs. How do you know whether to fire somebody or to lean into them more? You have to be able to judge good work.
Right.
And let's say that it's fucking, I always use the accounting example. How do you know if it's good work or not? And this is how people lose a bunch of money. They're like, I don't know. I fucking hired a CFO and a CPA and a bookkeeper. It's their responsibility. I'm like, yeah,
But
dude.
yeah,
But
you
you're
still need to know what the fuck's
you're
going
the one
on.
getting fucked in the
Yeah,
end. So you need
yeah.
to know. And whether that's content or manufacturing or knowing the ins and outs of import, export from China.
Yeah.
Those are all things that need to that behoove you to learn
Right.
at a deeper and deeper level over time, because you can attract a higher level of expert. Your standard for the level of, you want to have somebody who knows manufacturing better than you, right? Eventually on the team that can handle that can handle the logistics. But if you, and I'm just saying you, but if I know like this much, and I'm pinching the air very smallly about manufacturing, the skill set of the person who knows more about it than me really doesn't have to be that much. In the grand scheme, he could still be a complete amateur.
Totally.
But he's blowing my mind because he knows a little bit
He knows more,
he knows more than me.
Yeah.
And so the greater your skill set in every domain, your standard for who you hire grows as well. And you attract the higher skill person because they're like, damn, I'm better than you at marketing, but like you know your shit, right? I believe I'm going to attach, myself to you because you appear to be a very competent individual. And so it's just like this extremely,
I mean, I love that helicopter analogy.
Yeah.
It's perfect in the sense of like, yeah, maintain your high level shit, but get down in it when you need to know it.
When you need to know it. And that's where self-awareness and learning to be present becomes so valuable, to be able to understand the moment, to literally be in the moment and
well, I think it's
breathe.
being able to be in the moment, but then also being that, I always love the chess analogy, being a good chess player and knowing a good 7, 8, 10 moves ahead.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can see this going off the rails in like 8 moves if we don't figure this shit out now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun. I fucking love it. You guys are launching this week, right?
Yeah. I literally just put out, I'm at that point of like, I told Bobby that I'm like, let's just start putting the content out. This is another thing we talk about. I could feel my perfectionism still coming back in. Like I thought I had let most of it go. And then all of a sudden I'm ready to post content for this mic stand and I'm getting nitpicky about it. And I'm like, Logan, fucking put it out. Like put it out. Like who gives a shit? Like, so yeah, content's launching this week. I think I needed there's this weird, I tend to get very vulnerable about this. So let's just share it. There is this part of me that feels a little like old at times when it comes to content creation and to like putting stuff out. I think there's this part of me that feels like, because I've been running this studio now and I've been out of the loop of like creating reels and stuff, that I feel a little attached to like, oh, what's working and what's not working in social media right now, as opposed to just being like, just start creating it and flush it out and figure out what's going to be you and authentic to you and put it out there. The stuff that I preach all the time, that it's not going to be perfect right out of the gate, that don't try to be a Gen Z content creator, just be a 42, 43-year-old content creator, or, whatever I'm recording for this, the sort of behind the scenes process and journey of taking an idea to a product. Like just start talking about it. I think that was my biggest thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of got some validation from a few younger content creators that are like, yeah, man, just start talking about it. Like nobody knows what that's like to like, he's like, I don't know what it's like to go find a manufacturer in China. So I'm like, all right, let's start doing that. And he did say, again, we all know this, like consistency matters. So it's just like, okay, whatever, post some pictures about the product, post some behind the scenes, post a few more like fancy style reels of it sitting in people's offices. he's like, it doesn't have to look a certain way all the time. Just start getting it out there. So that's what I'm doing.
Totally.
I feel like it'll just work itself into like its brand look over the course of 2-3 months or whatever on social media. Like,
Yeah.
it'll flush its own self out. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah, we're launched. We didn't do like this official, like, hey, we're launched. Like, I'm just like starting to post content. You can get on the wait list for the microphone stand. There's currently 4. It's like there's kind of 4, maybe 5 colors available. We're still just sort of collecting data on like what people want. And then
Have y'all explored having sort of a drop model?
yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. Like this,
Because that feels
first
very you and Bobby.
yeah.
You know,
That's what we're doing with this first one. We're collecting on the wait list. They can pick their color for the wait list. So then we have that data of like, oh, there's 1,500 people that want the beige one, or 500 people that want the orange one, and then we'll hit that drop in 6 weeks or whatever it might be.
Do you have any other brands that you think do that really well?
I don't know. You have any? Do you have any? Well, I know we
Yeah.
talked about the cookie company.
Yeah, the cookie company is the one that comes to
That
mind.
still we can't remember the brand.
How could I ignore the cookie company
cookie
that sells cookies for $200?
Yeah, I mean,
And they sell out every time instantaneously.
my camera cages that I bought, they did a really good job with their drops.
Yeah, I've never actually worked on a exclusive drop.
You know, now that I've navigated my way through this product development and manufacturing and everything, I'm sure with a lot of drops, like, yes, it's the whole scarcity mentality marketing, like, oh, here's a drop, get it while you can. But now I also do believe it is a matter of financial strategy.
Yeah, huge. I'm glad
Like,
you said
oh,
that.
I don't have the money to go create thousands and thousands of these right now or get thousands and thousands of them made. I only can afford to do 200 or 300.
Yeah, totally.
And it's not putting me in a mountain of debt.
100%. You can control inventory in a different way. Your working capital is more predictable.
Yeah.
Like if you're just, selling mic stands that are available 24/7, it creates its own level of stress in terms of knowing how much inventory you need to have, and,
Right.
making sure shipments are here on time. So I think that's really interesting. But what you were saying about content, what I heard you describing was almost kind of 3 different channels. So there's your story of building the brand, right? Like the founder story. Then there's the brand itself. Let's talk, that's like Logan's page versus the brand's page. And then there's the influencer or ambassador strategy, where it's like, well, how do other people rock this, and what does it look like in their settings? And that goes on their pages.
The product in its own context, essentially.
Yeah, exactly, in its own context. And when we've worked with brands that are selling a product but catering to different audiences, there's that huge benefit of seeing the product in the respective demos context, right? So
Right.
that maybe that more rebellious young, I'm thinking of Jasmine, rebellious younger female creator, and she's rocking this mic stand in her own way, versus the more, I don't know how, girly sorority girl podcaster that's rocking it in her own way,
Yeah.
right? And then you get to repurpose that content into its own ads, which finds those audiences.
Right.
So you're not marketing to the Dallas sorority girl with your or Jasmine's content. You're doing it with somebody that reflects that, and then vice versa, right? Like your content is attracting people like you, Jasmine's content is
Right.
attracting people like her. So I don't know if you've thought how deeply you've thought about that yet, or how that
Well,
plays
that's
in.
kind of the angle that I was going with getting those colors to the proper content creators.
Mm.
It's also a little delicate because, I don't have a free product to give them yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to find the ones that are willing to do this with the prototypes that I have and sort of help out, or just take a regular payment like, hey, can you create me like 2 or 3 reels with this and get some still shot photos. The hope will be when we do have enough for the first drop, then include like an extra 20 or 30 of them. And then those are the ones we start giving out for free to other content creators. And just the meeting that I had the other day with this guy, Elliot, it's the risk involved in just sending it to somebody, but this is kind of the way you have to do it, which is just send it to them in hopes that it's like, here, I thought you would like this. It seems to match your style. You use a mic stand. If you feel like creating a video talking about it, whatever, go for it. If not, enjoy the mic stand.
Mm.
And the risk you run with that is A, maybe they don't create anything with it. B, maybe they do and they don't like it. Maybe they're like, oh, this mechanism sucks on it and I don't like it. Or you get the big reward payoff where they love it and they are willing to just organically talk about it.
You can also include suggested briefs in there. Like,
Yeah.
hey, if you love this, like these would be very valuable to us. No pressure. We want you to create in your own way. But if you include, 1 to 3 content briefs in there with examples, it could be you shooting the content in that way. Over time, you can, particularly if you know that a certain format of content works in the ad account. So, for example, if you've posted 5 videos in the ad account and one is overperforming, and that's you
Clearly, that's the one.
sitting here like this, doing a 30-second ad read about whatever.
Yeah.
That's the brief that you include and be like, hey, create however you want, but we know this works, and it would be much appreciated. And the suggestion is required because you're not paying them, but influencers and creators, I think, appreciate briefs because they don't want to create bad content.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're paying people, then you can require it. But
right.
That's probably not what's happening right now. So,
but it's interesting feelings. You're talking about emotions and feelings that are coming up, getting back into your own thing now. I'm getting those interesting feelings because, like we talked about earlier in this podcast, like I've never really had to be a CEO. I've never released a product. I've never put something out there that like not requires, but there will be a level of feedback and validation that I've never felt before because it can go to so many people. It's different. The studio, like, sure, people walk in here, whatever, but the reach isn't like super far right now. And I would say running the studio hasn't been like, I haven't had to be a CEO. I'm just like a little small business owner. That's kind of how I feel about it. So the little bit of anxiety / excitement that I feel with it, sort of navigating that, and being trying to be hyper aware of it, has also led to a lack of connection in other parts of my life. Like I can feel the focus being so much on this, which I think it needs to be right now, that I'm not used to like that taking away energy and focus from other components of my life, mainly fatherhood, my marriage. Not that it's like bad, it's just I can tell there's a little more distance in those things. So even being self-aware of that and navigating those feelings of like, don't feel guilty about that, don't feel shame about that. That's just this season of life right now that there's a little more distance and gaps there because all the focus needs to be hyper attentive over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just constant adaptation.
Right.
Like as an employee, I could have. I knew when my next paycheck was coming, right? Yeah. And there was more boundaries. 9 to 5, not so much, but still more level of boundaries where I could spend family time in a certain way. Then when you're a business owner, the boundaries technically evaporate. Mm-hmm. And so now you have to create your own set of boundaries. But just the act of creating those new set of boundaries is this conscious act that has to happen that a lot of people just don't pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And that's adaptation in its own. Even if you keep the same boundaries that you, let's say, schedule that you did a 9 to 5, you now have to choose to keep that. It's not an external force.
Right.
So it's still an adaptation to a degree. And I'm pretty sure all entrepreneurs, especially the ones that in my family or friends that are parents, all go through their own arc of like, okay, well, I don't log off at 5, so I can't just, but honestly, even that's a fallacy. When I was working in tech or, my most recent gig, the dads, like I saw this repeat pattern of like, they'll work till whatever, call it 5 or 6. Then they spend 2 to 3 hours with the kids. And I'll never forget the first time I really saw this done at a high level. Then they would log back in at like 9, 10, and then work till like midnight or 1. And I actually think all the high performing dad entrepreneurs and employees that I know basically work on that schedule.
I mean, I don't do it every night. And truthfully, I'm consciously trying to be like, I don't want to fall into that trap of doing that. And I don't even really want to call it a trap. It's like if it's required, then you just have to do it. Mm-hmm. If you have so much going on that you need to do that, then for sure. But I am trying to be more cognizant and value A, my time with my kids, B, my sleep. Because I know if that goes south, then A, I'm not going to wake up at 5 a.m. and get shit done. But who knows? I don't know. I think that's where the anxiety and nervousness comes a little bit, of the fear of the unknown, of like, I don't know what this is going to look like in 3 months when it does go the way I want it to go, optimistically. And my schedule becomes quite a bit busier. Mm-hmm. Because navigating it with kids, like doing this with a family, you talk about those boundaries, it's so much more dicey, because now me willing to take a risk, I have to look at it from so many more angles because I have kids. Mm-hmm. The sheer like financial risk of it is so different, obviously, than if I was just single.
Yeah.
Like the idea of going into more debt or something, I'd be like, whatever, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Literally I'll have money in my account sometime where I'm like, okay, do I want to put this towards the content creators so I can just pay outright and not have to do a little more debt? Or do I want to have this, make sure I have this money in my account because Christmas is around the corner for the kids? Like literally those are the thoughts that go on in my head for this sometimes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you would benefit from more friends that are entrepreneurs and dads.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just extremely common. Like the job that I left, this guy, he transitioned from full-time job to his own company in the same month that his first child was born. Mm-hmm. And so I watched him the whole time, like figuring out how to become a dad for the first time and also being a founder for the first time. And he had to do that his own way. I just have a lot of friends that have navigated this. And
any of them you want to introduce me to?
I could, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you'd get along with them, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair. Like, yeah, I trust your judgment. So, that's another thing. Could be a whole nother podcast episode. Is I think I lightly touched on this the last episode of like, I don't have a lot of male friends right now that I'm connecting with. And that's part of me feels okay with that because yes, I have been focused on fatherhood. Yes, I have been focused on this business. That's where my attention needs to go. But I'm also realizing now I'm coming into a season of life where I need guy friends that are dads and entrepreneurs because I don't have anybody to talk about this with.
Yeah, for sure.
That has any sort of grasp or idea of what's going on.
Yeah, totally.
So,
yeah, I mean, they're all around.
no,
They're all.
I know. That's just, I also know that's my responsibility to get out and make connections and reach out to people and things like that. So maybe this is my kick in the butt to do it.
I just think it'll normalize a lot of the anxieties or thoughts that you have because.
Well, I feel it's not even that. Like, I feel like I'm not like, I'm like, yeah, these are normal thoughts, whatever.
Yeah.
But just being able to like metabolize it and get it out. Like you talk about it like journaling. I'm very much like, I just need to verbalize it and get it out.
Yeah.
And then have somebody say like, yeah, cool. That shit is wild. And here's what I did about it. And here's what's probably going to happen. And do what you need to do about it. But yeah, for me, I'm very much a like external verbalizer. And then I'm like,
totally.
That's why when we have these podcasts, which is probably why I tend to get a little more vulnerable and a little more therapish because I'm like, I need to get this shit out.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I have 2 coaches, that help me metabolize. I have a sponsor that helps me metabolize. I'm a part of a peer group of founders that help me metabolize. Like, we all have to be very intentional about. Sometimes I pay for my coaches. Like they're not my friends just sitting there. Like I pay for 2 people to spend time with me every week so I can do this. And they've been where I want to go in their versions. And they can help me validate or think about things differently. And like, I had to go out and I had to seek that out.
Right.
And so I think that's just valuable for everybody. So if that's the one takeaway I think from today's talk is seeking out people that are similar-ish to you, because although my coaches are super different than me actually, but like I think my perspective it's limited for you because I don't have the dynamic of kids.
Mm-hmm.
I get to spend my day differently. I don't have that. So, finding somebody or some people that resonate with you is just incredibly valuable. And to my point, both of my coaches are like in their 70s. They're white males. One is extremely liberal and one is extremely conservative. So like they're actually very different than me, but something about their perspectives helps me a lot. So,
well, this is my sign. I've been feeling it and needing to do it. Part of the reason why I'm doing the solo trip to Sedona was to kind of get a little reset, reconnect with myself, and then be like, okay, I need to connect with some others.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially because I'm just going into the unknown of this product CEO world.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We should probably wrap it up.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. In the next one. See ya.
Later.